go. Yea, though they walking through the valley of the shadows, just prepare and make them fit for every battle, because I know they bound to come, and I know they bound to fall, but in your bounty, Lord, preserve their beautiful. Right, we still surviving off of grandma's prayers, surrounded by the jungle and the lion's den. Tread light, cause these traps is inconspicuous. They hide right in plain sight, thinking we don't see them when they linger. Look right beneath the surface, then leave a trail of corpses. Crisis, prices, your life a disposable commodity, like living in a fantasy, conditioned to believe that the system even cares whether selling CDs or walking or driving or reading. Look, they don't even need a reason, it's just you breathing and being black. When it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all, at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming bloody murder. So they got me screaming. This gritty city got me on song. Look,
we might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that. You're going to have to say that I am a
Good afternoon. I want to welcome you all out today. We appreciate you joining us. We're here to announce, many of you, most of you already know, that Leonard Peltier, one of the longest held political prisoners in this country, has been released today after serving 49 years in prison. We're delighted that he's been released. We wanted to make sure that we held a press conference today to let all of our folks who come in, all our comrades, the folks who come in solidarity, know that a freedom fighter was unleashed today. It's long overdue. At 80 years old, we know that it was nothing short of torture for a man to spend the majority of his adult life inside of a box. A man who was not doing well physically. A man who was a community leader, who was still a community leader, a cultural icon. A human being, someone who fights for humanity, and someone who is still strong, someone who is never weak. We know that 7 months ago, Leonard Peltier was denied parole, and the state told him to come back in 15 years. We also know that on January 20th, President Biden granted him clemency on his way out. Today we are joined by some fighters, some folks who you don't usually get to see because of the fact that there are people out here that would like to pretend that Leonard Peltier was released because of sole individuals. We know that's not the case. It came from 50 years, close to 50 years of supporters, of freedom fighters, of people who were in solidarity, people who had humanity in their heart, people who had love in their heart. So that's what it is. There's no one group, there's no one attorney, there's no one individual, there's no superhero, and there's no pie in the sky to grant them this freedom. This is strictly off of the will of the people. And so today, we want to introduce you to a few of his lawyers, And after we have this immediate press conference, it will be followed by statements of solidarity from folks who love Leonard, folks who've known Leonard for decades. We have to my left, Jennifer Jones, Attorney Jennifer Jones, who is lead attorney. We have co-counsel, Laura Lutz-Cohen, and we also have Attorney Chase Iron Eyes, and they'll be speaking first two primarily on the case. Chase has been a long-time worker and supporter and friend of Leonard Peltier as well. So we're going to get this thing started. I want to start off by introducing to you Attorney Jennifer Jones.
Thank you so much. Foremost, I wanted to thank our friends and comrades, the Uhuru movement, especially Chairman Amalia Chitella, Chairwoman Shankas, and Maizimo Odom. The Uhuru movement has been absolutely indispensable to Leonard's case, and it's an honor for them to stand with us. So thank you for this decades-long advocacy. We also want to thank the ad hoc committee, now the Leonard Peltier Official Support Committee, Chase Iron Eyes, Dr. Renee Morrissey, Dr. Ricardo Alvarez, Julia Wright, the National Conference of Black Lawyers, Amnesty International, Lumia International, Wanji Jamachanga, founder of Black Power Media, every single member of our legal team of nearly 20, especially attorneys Audrey Momsey and Michael Kuzma and Professor Chuck Weisselberg. And last but not least, Leonard supporters who helped this day come to fruition. Today demonstrates what we can do together when we are conscious that we are tied together in that garment that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King spoke about, that we shall accomplish anything. It is proof that when we see our humanity as bound to one another, that not one of us shall perish in darkness. That fear cannot annihilate us, but the promise and the prospect of justice is not forlorn. I am so encouraged by the Biden administration's decision to grant my client, Leonard Peltier, a commutation. It's a step in the right direction, one which ensures dignity for Leonard, something which has long been denied him, legally, medically, and socially, but will now be restored in the way of quality medical care, family, community, and cultural ties. It's been an honor to represent Leonard. Leonard's soul is so good, and he has the heart of a warrior, neither of which can be destroyed. This is his day in the sun, for which there is no dust. In our view, it is a hallmark in time, in the anti-colonial struggle, and so much more. For some time now, I have kept my phone close by, night and day, in case Leonard called. Leonard will lay his head down this evening, not in a cell, but free in his community. So I will sleep well this evening, knowing that he is safe. I want to especially thank Attorney Robert Gifford. His work on Leonard's commutation must and should be highlighted. Attorney Gifford's work is an example of skilled lawyering and humility from which I am learning, and I thank my colleague. To be clear, irrespective of who you see with Leonard, the posting of pictures and other public proclamations, it is impossible that any one organization, person, or party is responsible for the outcome today. Movements are undermined by hero worship. I know Leonard credits everyone who showed up for him. In my view, political prisoners are political prisoners because their political positions and and activities are directly at odds with the stated and unstated goals of the state itself. Not a party, not a committee, not a subcommittee. And that is why commutation has evaded Leonard, no matter which party has been in office over the decades. We developed a dynamic team that could tend to the whole person of Leonard. We established independent doctors and a psychotherapist, not only to ensure Leonard's well-being, but to empower him with steadfast means of dignity, to embolden his humanity, a native psychotherapist with a focus on prisoner-related issues. Every month, Dr. Morrissey visited Leonard just so that we could know, and he could know, that he is okay and that he is held at all times. And that will continue to happen even after he's been released now. What is true is that two things happened. A unique or even unprecedented political circumstances which created ripe and fertile ground for serious consideration to be given to Leonard's release by both parties in our electoral politics. And the second is legal advocacy, which positioned Leonard's case such that the explicit constitutional and legal violations about the execution of his sentence altogether were robustly challenged front and center, which we did during the parole hearing. In layman's terms, it's often called teeing it up for litigation, yes. Something I think we had a solid chance to prevail on for many reasons. But solidifying the legal posture of Leonard's case, including his unlawful detention and our discovery of decades-long ex post facto violations by the United States Parole Commission, and decades-long severe medical neglect, which is tantamount to torture. Yet Leonard's case had not been heard by a court of law in over a decade. Prior to the last parole hearing last year, a decade and a half. So myself and co-counsel submitted volumes of analysis, advocacy, and facts. But we still have work to do. It is our proposition that any detention of Leonard is unlawful. So it is time to come together and establish an orientation towards good and allowing our principles to be reflected in our dealings with one another. The deliberate erasure of history by anyone takes a page from the violent machinations of dominant culture, and is no less so when it takes root in any marginalized community. Racial hierarchies set forth by any community, marginalized or not, undermines our common sense of struggle. Self-determination, imposed only as we see it and understand it, and desire it for another, is another form of confinement. Perry Gray Robinson, who was slain in 1973, knew the importance of solidarity with the Indigenous struggle, and we intend to continue his work and honor Leonard, honor him. And so we look forward to advancing these principles of unity together. Again, thank you, everyone, co-counsel, and Margie, and committees. Free Leonard, free all the prisoners.
Thank you, Attorney Jennifer Jones. We want to apologize to our audience online. I know that folks were saying that we had mic trouble and they can't hear us. We apologize. Hopefully you can hear us now. If not, please lean in and listen. We're doing the best we can right now. When it's free, we just let you know what's going on. Next up, we have Co-counsel Laura Meltzer-Cohen.
Good afternoon. We are here today to celebrate the release of Leonard Peltier. Make no mistake, the commutation of his sentence to home confinement is a win. And we are grateful for all of the conditions, all of the circumstances, and all of the work from every quarter that made this win possible. This is a win for Leonard and his loved ones. It is a win for political prisoners. It is a win for prisoners. It is a win for our collective sense of hope. I came onto this legal team primarily to work on Leonard's parole. So I'm focused on the legal efforts to secure his release. Working on this case with Leonard and with his team has been the honor of a lifetime. I got to author a comprehensive memorandum and labored together with many, many, many attorneys and legal workers. Shout out to Bob Boyle, shout out to Chuck Weisselberg and Brad Thompson, and so many other attorneys and legal workers who we all came together to put together a 500-plus page parole submission that included not only letters from friends, loved ones, leaders, luminaries, and tribes, but Leonard's own art. We went through a 7-hour parole hearing that included 2 witnesses and many hours of oral argument. But it should come as no surprise that the colonial law that put Leonard behind bars was never going to be enough on its own to get him back out. What brought us to this day was 5 decades of global struggle. All of the people doing absolutely everything they could do, large and small, from the legal to the political to the cultural arenas. Every person giving the special expertise they had to give. The struggles for Indigenous sovereignty and Black liberation and the related global struggles are all necessary because of the intrusion of the settler state. And if any of those struggles are going to be addressed in a way that can lead to true resolution, all of us must work together with generosity, intellectual honesty, patience, and courage. Our work with Leonard is living proof that we can do this. And it is proof that when we fight together, we win. Leonard's freedom today is the culmination of all of those efforts for all of that time. And I would call on everyone hearing this to remember that you do not need to be an especially powerful person or have a law degree to engage with meaning in struggles for liberation. Let this victory remind you, when we fight, we win. Let this victory fuel you and spur you to further action on behalf of everyone still behind those prison walls. Leonard is going to be back home, ready to carry on this fight. Let's all get ready, in whatever ways we are able, to start fighting or to keep fighting with him. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. I leave you with a reminder from poet Diane de Prima. No one way works. It will take all of us shoving at the thing from all sides to bring it down. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to Chase Iron Eyes, and we'll open up for a couple questions, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Kalanji. Thank you to the Uhuru House. Thank you to Co-counsel, We Counsel, people that have kept Leonard's struggle alive for 5 decades. I was born into the struggle for Indigenous sovereignty, Indigenous liberation. And I stand here today on behalf of my father and my mother and everybody who's given their lives to assert tribal sovereign rights and to defend our collective humanity, our collective dignity, human rights, God-given rights, constitutional rights, inalienable rights. That's what is supposed to be the United States of America. More and more, we are witnessing in real time that the fabric that binds those who call themselves Americans is up for negotiation. It's up for interpretation. So no matter what walk of life you might come from, no matter what demographic or you might have been classified into, it's imperative on you to seek out an empowered understanding of the nature of our rights as human beings, because there are forces that are seeking to diminish those rights. There are forces that are seeking to continue the political imprisonment of Indigenous sovereignty. That's all Leonard was doing, was defending our right to be who we are as Native people. On the very day that this shootout happened, a tribal president that was provided legal immunity for scores of murders, including the murder of my dad's brother, signed away land that was rich in mineral resources to the United States government on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. There were and are corrupt elements in the institutions, arms, and agencies of this great country. And unless we confront those corrupt elements, they will continue to attempt to undermine our sovereignty, our Indigenous sovereignty and American constitutional sovereignty. I know this because I've had to put myself on the line in the same way my dad did, my mom, and Leonard Peltier. And justice was denied to Leonard. Leonard suffered great harm because of politically motivated violence and imprisonment. Leonard was not able to put on the defenses that Bob Robidoux and Dino Butler put on. Leonard has done 50 years for us, and tomorrow he's going to be welcomed as a hero in his homeland. We are going to celebrate Leonard Peltier in the same way that we celebrate Nelson Mandela and every other political prisoner right now from all walks of life. As human beings, we have to pursue a path of consciousness, assert and defend all of those rights that we consider to be inalienable. We have to do that because those forces are working hard every day to diminish those rights among all of us. And I want to say thank you for all the hard work that everybody's done. Leonard has been locked up for longer than I've been alive. But tonight, he's going to sleep a free sleep. I just want to say thank you. We need y'all. Take courage. Oh, yeah, I say thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I want to say real quick, we had the opportunity to spend time with Leonard yesterday. And it was surreal. And Leonard couldn't believe, he was still in the zone, like, man, I'm like, tomorrow, you're gonna be out this time tomorrow. And he's out after 49 years, longer than many of you have waited to be on this planet. You know what I'm saying? I asked him if he regretted being quote unquote married to the movement, having to do damn near 50 years. And he said no. Of course, he wouldn't want to be in that cell. But at the same time, living and dying for your people is better than living and dying for no reason at all. So we appreciate Leonard Peltier, and we're looking for the freedom of not only Leonard Peltier, but Mumia Abu-Jamal. We're looking for the freedom of Leonard Peltier, Brown. We're looking for the freedom of folks like Joy Powell. We're looking for the freedom of folks like Kamal Siddiqui. You know what I'm saying? And so many others who are locked up unjustly in this cruel world, this cruel society. So I'll call this frame off. We're going to take a few questions from the attorneys, and then we'll hear some solidarity statements from Leonard's comrades and family. We appreciate you all.
Ms. Jones, may I ask first if that's okay? Can we have you sit up? Just want to make sure you. Yes, Ms. Jones, I would like to first ask you, what would you say to the families of the 2 FBI agents who were killed when this happened?
I would say that the government bore the burden of proof to demonstrate Leonard's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And according to the prosecutor, James Reynolds, they did not. But we wish them condolences, the same, given the loss of their family members.
What is Leonard most looking forward to now that he's out?
Medical care.
Can you talk more about his needs?
Leonard was on a walker in USP colon 1. He's a moderate diabetic. Blindness for the past year, intermittent blindness, where at times he could not see at all. He was prescribed a CPAP machine for breathing issues, but for years was not able to have it operable because there was no plug to plug it in, so he just didn't get a CPAP machine. Joint and shoulder issues, needs physical therapy that was even prescribed by the Bureau of Prisons, but yet he never really got that physical therapy. A lot of slip and falls, like we see with people his age, but in maximum security prison, that obviously isn't ideal. So a lot of medical risks.
Can you talk a little bit about the decision to have a commutation rather than a full pardon? I know a lot of people have been critical of the prior administration in that decision to not issue a full pardon, especially in light of some of the other pardons that were issued, especially last minute to members of the Biden family. Could you talk, first of all, a little bit about that, and also what hopes or possible concerns you have about the pursuit of justice with other political prisoners with the current administration?
Absolutely. Well, I can say first and foremost that a pardon is not something that Leonard supported. It's an implied admission of guilt, but notwithstanding that, it's not legally eligible for a pardon until they're out for at least 5 years. And so it's not something, in terms of principle, that he supports, it's also not something he's legally eligible for at this time. However, we hope that whatever relief other political prisoners are pursuing, that they receive that relief and support that. But I think exoneration is something that could be in order at this point, given the facts of Leonard's case.
And also the second part, could you talk about your hopes or possible concerns about pursuing justice for political prisoners given the current administration?
Yeah, the climate. I think we have to be ever vigilant and look at alternative mechanisms, and particularly in international forums, to really highlight the risk of the current political moment and climate.
Can we get some more details on the parole, if that's okay? So specifically, you referred to by your colleague as neglect when it comes to the parole over those years. Can you define, because over the 49 years, how many times should he have been actually eligible for parole? How many times did you all pursue it?
Well, I was only involved in this last parole hearing. You become eligible for parole. So there is no longer any federal parole. So the only people who are eligible for parole, who are serving federal sentences, are people who are referred to as old law prisoners. So people who were sentenced prior to, I think, 1987. So there are fewer and fewer of them, and they are, of course, older and older. The Parole Commission, the United States Parole Commission, can impose a certain number of years that you have to wait for your next parole hearing after they issue a parole denial. And they review your case without having a full parole hearing every 2 years. Every time Leonard did go before the United States Parole Commission, they hit him with a 15-year delay, which is basically the longest delay that you can have. And they did this in spite of the fact that on several occasions, parole commissioners said things like, if you were anyone else, looking at your record of service, it would be a no-brainer to release you. It's evident that you care deeply about your community. It's evident that you have support. It's evident that you're highly skilled, that you've contributed a great deal to your community. But we just can't do it because of the nature of the offense. So, yeah, I mean, I think one of the things about this particular parole hearing is that we were able to show a number of things, one of which was that, as Ms. Jones noted, the only consistent feature of Leonard's medical care over the last 5 decades was the Bureau of Prisons' utter failure to follow through on providing it, even after the Bureau of Prisons itself diagnosed all of these really serious, sometimes life-threatening illnesses. We were also able to, bring in witnesses to attest to what it would mean for Leonard to be restored to freedom. And we were also, as Attorney Jones mentioned, able to identify some real problems with the ways in which the Parole Commission had been applying the relevant law. They were basically applying a standard for whether or not to grant parole that was overly focused on the nature of the offense and who the individual was at the time of the offense, rather than the standard that actually ought to have been applied, which is the standard that was in place at the time of the offense, at the time of sentencing. And that standard was actually a very forward-looking standard that was concerned with who the person had become and really centered the alleged rehabilitative promise of incarceration.
And whoever else would like to answer my last question, if that's okay. I just want to pose what some may argue is that this person, Leonard, is getting out now because of President Biden and outside of the fact that he killed 2 law enforcement officers, 2 FBI agents, I should say. How would you respond to that?
Excuse me, you just asked that question a few minutes ago. Leonard, we killed anyone. We're clear about that. And thank you for your time.
Can I ask one follow-up question? So to what do you attribute these conditions that you were describing with regards to Leonard and also the prolonged nature of some of these parole appeals? To what motivation do you suggest there could be for that?
I don't think it's particularly controversial to assume that the United States Parole Commission was very concerned about the fact that the FBI was quite angry and was very, very committed to seeing Leonard spend the rest of his life in prison. And in fact, one of the things about this case is that there is well-documented prosecutorial and government misconduct associated with it at every level, from arrest to conviction to sentencing. There's very well documented evidence of gross misconduct on the part of the government. And, you know, as you may have seen, even now, what I would say is the FBI has a very long but inaccurate memory, right? And so even now, with this commutation, they remain angry and convinced of Leonard's guilt, despite the fact that the evidence of that guilt was primarily manufactured by their agents.
Thank you all for your questions. At this time, we will bring up folks to give solidarity statements. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, attorneys, for joining us. And thank you for the work that you've done in helping to get Leonard Peltier released. That's what's important. That's the topic of the day. Leonard Peltier is a free man after 49 years. Folks who are giving solidarity statements, please join us at the front. We're inviting folks from the support committee. We're going to start with a prayer.
In solidarity, Arujo, thank you for being in the house, thank you for being present. As you know, Leonard Peltier has been released. I'm not going to mention everything that my brother, Chase Iron Eyes, mentioned, because he did a thorough job on tapping me into the conversation about what happened today and in the history. What I do want to say is I want to close with a pause right now for a prayer for Leonard. Just to thank not only us in the room, but our ancestors, the people that are here that are unseen. So if we can just do a prayer on behalf of Leonard Peltier. And we can have silence and thank the Creator, thank the ancestors, and continue this prayer that I'm sure that you understand. Creator, we come and we thank you, Creator, for this moment now, the present moment, not the past and not the future, only the present moment in which we're in. We thank you for the release of Leonard Peltier and all the things that you have continued. The longest 50 years that Leonard has spent, and we just thank you right now and continue that prayer that Leonard has petitioned for 50 years. While he sat there, Creator, we are talking about that conversation where he has been praying for us while we're out here. He is a long-standing warrior and political prisoner of the American Indian movement, of his peoples, Chiramoton, and of the Chippewa, his people, community, and his family. And I just really take a moment now to continue that meditation and prayer and say thank you for all the things that we have here, and for the unknown and unseen things that we don't know about, the things that we continue to think about, pray about, that happen are miracles. We're living in supernatural times now, and we just thank you for our medicine wheels, the elements, food, the air we breathe, the things that we take for granted. We're taking a moment now to say thank you. Leonard Peltier is now going to enjoy his food upon his grandmother, and we say thank you. We hold sacred space here for the ancestors of all who are Indigenous and for the ones that are dear and near in our heart. We hold that sacred space in our heart for those we love and care for in our family as well. Thank you, Creator, for this day. I hope without the awesome Christian. Thank you. We'd like to, at this time, I would like to say, we're not going to go over everything that my brother Aaron and I went over. He did amazing at speaking of what we're talking about here. And one of the things that we did want to do was we have some people that want to go live that can't be here. And we're going to call, right now, we are going to have Chief Good Kindness. We're going to call him and he's going to speak. Chief Good Wolf Kindness is American Indian Movement, and he wants to say a few words. These people can't be here. These are people who are in the movement, people on the front line, and people who are actually have advocated for years. Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good. Okay, so we're live now. Chief Good Kindness, Good Wolf, and if you'd like to say some words to the people.
I'd like to say greetings from Las Vegas, Amy, Red Wolf Warrior Society. It's a great day today to have Leonard home. I'd like to thank everybody in the world and everybody in the U.S. collectively for helping our Sundance brother get home to his people. Also, thanking his family for the sacrifice that they had to go through, for their strong strength and energy to get through the last 50 years with the father being wrongly incarcerated. I'm just very happy to have my Sundance brother in the free world where he can feel the sun on his back, sun on his face, and feel that Mother Earth. I know that he's been looking forward to this for many years, 50 to be exact, as everybody knows. And everybody's prayers, Sundance prayers, everyday prayers, people getting out there, and wisdom and knowledge is power, and everybody doing their part is very crucial, was very crucial and responsible for helping Leonard to gain his freedom. So I want to say with the utmost respect, biggest respect and warrior power to all the families, the people, the American Indian movement. I just wish all the people that have fought here would be able to see this day. My energy, my heart, and my eyes, I will share this in my prayers when I go to my sweat lodge, and thank you, Creator, for bringing Leonard home to his family. The biggest respect and to all the people. And I'd like to say, hey, we have to stay strong as one planet, one people. We are all different, but still the same. And we have to always remember our past, keep our future strong for the next 7 generations.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time, we just want to thank him. We're going to bring up some people here from the committee, and then if you would like to, we're going to continue this conversation, and if you would like to, this only happens once in a lifetime after 50 years of political prisoners released, and so we're going to have other people in the movement that would like to speak to you and say,
Thank you, Jacker. My name is Leonard Peltier, and I'm a member of the Jericho Movement for Political Prisoners. And I am also Leonard's cousin by marriage. I was married to Bob, his co-defendant. And when you talk about the family, Leonard lost his mother and father, his Uncle Billy and his aunts. So he has really, when he comes home, which will happen sometime later this afternoon, there is going to be a parade for him. The sheriff is going to meet them at the edge of the reservation, and Leonard will be escorted to his house. Tomorrow there will be a ceremony and a celebration at the casino that will be live streamed, and you can go on and watch it, and hopefully Leonard will be allowed to be there. When they say house arrest, they could mean it in the worst way, that Leonard is never allowed to leave anything but his porch. Or they could be kind and say, this man has not been allowed his religion for so long, let's build a sweat lodge in his backyard and make his home confinement his yard. And then he would be able to be part of ceremonies that he's not been able to be part of for 49 years. Jericho works for political prisoners. I heard somebody ask about what we think is going to happen. I think it's going to be hell for our political prisoners, and I think it's going to get worse. Trump has already attempted to say that people that have stood in solidarity with Palestine deserve to be sent to Guantanamo. Now, there are lots and lots of young people who stood in solidarity with Palestine, and to think that this president is going to have the power to have them arrested and charged with a felony because of solidarity between Palestine, the people here in the United States, the indigenous people, which is land back. Palestine needs its land back. And so we stood with Leonard this whole period of time, and I would visit him when I lived in Tampa. So I've probably seen him more than his family has as a legal worker. We always made sure that the committee had access to the lawyers. And I have to tell you, Jennifer and Mo are the best lawyers that he has had. It's so different working with somebody who considers Leonard a person and not an object that he gets to move around. And so I think that's one of the reasons that we've been able to build such solidarity within different movements, is because of the way Jennifer and Mo have conducted themselves and have worked for other political prisoners as well. We have to realize that becoming a political prisoner will have dire consequences. And to accept the responsibility like Leonard did, or Bill Dunn, or Tom Manning, and some of the other political prisoners with Tulu Shakur that we have lost, that is going to be the responsibility we are going to have to take if we want to have a world that we can pass on to our children and our children's children. So I hope everybody will accept some responsibility, stand up for Palestine, fight white supremacy. Don't be afraid to call white people on being racist. Do not let them get away with it. We cannot afford to be liberal at this time. We have to be as honorable as possible. So please join us in the struggle for liberation, for land back for indigenous people, and for liberation for all that walk on Mother Earth. Thank you.
I'd like to also say something. I would like to say that, a compliment and also the work behind the scenes. There's been a lot of work. And Dr. Johnson, our legal team, including Co-counsel and around that side, as well as other people here, and many others, they we developed a constitutional and human rights-based legal strategy, and I have done some research and I put together the conclusion. And, the strategy and the legal defense focus on ensuring that his medical needs were met and the constitutional human rights standards, while also structuring the legal arguments for his parole. They really did challenge the parole board, and I really commend them for that. So I wanted to make another call. We have someone that's on the call that wants to make a statement. And yeah, so we're going to call them now, and then we're going to have our other statements. So we're going to call Mike Forsha. He is a leading Indian member. His family is from Minneapolis. They were wounded in the siege. And it's important that we acknowledge, not only acknowledge the family and relatives, but that we, are able to connect and be familiar. Because when we become familiar with people who are part of the movement, who are part of the struggle, and part of the front line, then we become family. Okay, so I wanted to, okay, so we have someone here that wants to make a statement. Thank you.
My name is Chinarenga Silambao. I'm the National Director of Organization for the African People's Socialist Party. On behalf of Chairman Amali Shatella, I want to welcome everybody to the Uhuru House. I'm going to read a statement that Chairman Amali Shatella has put forward in support of Leonard Peltier, and that's the official statement of the African People's Socialist Party. Uhuru to comrades, supporters, and legal counsel who have contributed to the 50-year struggle to see Leonard Peltier released. Our history should reflect that on February 18, 2025, a great victory has been achieved as a consequence of your dedication. The African People's Socialist Party salutes you. It should also be noted that Comrade Leonard's freedom from the colonial concentration camp, known as prison in this country, happened as a result of the important political organizing work that the people have carried out over the past 5 decades. Not because Biden or any other representative of this illegitimate set of colonies gained some sort of moral conscience. The fact is, the very same struggle that Leonard dedicated himself to, the anti-colonial struggle that began once the first Europeans set foot on the land to steal, is roiling throughout the country and throughout the world. It is a struggle that makes natural allies of African and indigenous people in the U.S. who lived under colonial domination by the European settlers who stole this land and Africans from our Africa hundreds of years ago. It is the European colonizers who characterize themselves as American or white today, who forced the original custodians of this land onto concentration camps referred to as reservations, with boundaries they got to dictate. The colonizers stole the land, raped and scalped indigenous women, men, and children, spread death and disease, violently enforced assimilation, and conferred power onto themselves to maintain this relationship for their economic prosperity. It is a relationship that continues to exist, hence the need for this system to imprison courageous fighters like Leonard Peltier to the point of incapacitation. The colonial system must fight against those emergent forces who challenge it through imprisonment, assassination, or counterinsurgent methods. I must mention that Comrade Leonard's release happens just days before our party, the African People's Socialist Party, celebrates the Day of the African Martyr, held February 21st in recognition of the assassination of Malcolm X. Malcolm, among many other prominent forces of the African liberation movement, threaten the existence of colonialism and colonial mode of production that provides futures for the colonizer throughout the globe. So it was necessary for this government to attack Leonard and the indigenous liberation struggle. And finally, I must emphasize that the colonizer gets to define what the law is, which means they have the power to determine what crime is. During slavery, running away from the plantation was a crime. Overthrowing a slave master was illegal. Therefore, we say with the utmost confidence that under colonialism, freedom for the colonized is illegal. Our presence here today proves this. The colonizer's law is illegitimate. The real crime is colonialism. And our duty as colonized people is to fight for our freedom from colonial domination. We stand shoulder to shoulder in uncompromising unity with indigenous and Mexican people, with Palestinians and the people of the Philippines, with all colonized people around the world. Let Comrade Leonard's release stand as an example to the outcomes we can expect when we fight back. And let his commitment to the anti-colonial struggle remind us that it's not yet Uhuru. Till it's won, smash colonialism, free all political prisoners. Uhuru.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your words. Okay, so we wanted to make a few more calls, people who would like to have you listen and, become familiar with them and what their statements are. Right now we have Grace Sinclair, White Pumpkin. He's going to make a statement and he's recommending the enlistment